Monti or not, the real problem is the weakness of the Italian economy. What is your opinion on Italy and in general on Europe?
Well, on Italy itself, I actually feel that Italy shares the same problem as many European countries, which is a weakness of political leadership. So I think in terms of that reference, Mario Monti is a strong political leader. However, he hasn't been potentially as effective as people had hoped in delivering the restructuring of the Italian economy itself. However, I believe Italy is very badly misrepresented in the financial press, because although Italy has a large sovereign debt to GDP ratio, it is actually very conservatively financed at a corporate and at an individual level. And therefore it is relatively wealthy. In fact, the statistics show that Italy is wealthier on a per capita basis than Germany. So I think the problem for Italy is its political leaders need to help the Italians understand that they need to restructure and become more flexible in their employment. They need to be more honest with financial transactions in the economy now coming into the economy rather than staying in the black economy. And they need to understand that whilst parts of Italy, particularly the northern parts of Italy, are very competitive with Germany and France and Spain, there are other elements of Italy which need to become more efficient. I think this is just a normal, pragmatic way of looking at a country as a whole, and therefore I do not share the doomster forecast for Italy. Italy has not had a property bubble. Italy has not got bust banks in the way that the UK or the US or the Swiss had bust banks, courtesy of the investment banking activities. So fundamentally, I think it is up to Italy to change some of its characters, if that's the right phrase, and then I think the future will be very good for Italy. Within Europe, though, clearly we have a challenge of restructuring some of the imbalances of the last 10 years. And those imbalances really mean that Italy, Spain, even France gave themselves pay rises, which Germany in that period of time was not giving itself. Therefore, we have a situation where Italy and Spain are about 20% less productive and less efficient than Germany in total. And therefore, we need not only Germany to help grow the economy through reflationary activity, cutting taxes in Germany, but we therefore then need to allow Germany to give Italy and Spain the time to restructure their economy. We at Allianz Global Investors believe that is underway, but it is not a 1 or 2 year fix. It's taken us 12 or 13 years to get in this situation. It could easily take us 10 years to resolve it. However, as an Englishman working in Germany for the last 10 years, I think the German will is there to help through that process, provided, and obviously we're watching demonstrations in Milan this morning, there has to be the political and social will in Italy and in Spain and elsewhere to change. So long as that is evident, I think Europe will do well and will move towards a more coherent, united Europe than we have at the moment.
Where do you see in Europe the best opportunities in terms of investments in 2013?
Well, I think following the intervention of the ECB in the summer, I think the best opportunities now lie in the credit markets of Europe, but also in the equity markets of Europe, particularly because internationally many people fear the euro at the moment, and therefore euro assets are not particularly well owned. But more importantly, because relative to UK and US equity markets, European equities are at about a 30% valuation discount. So I think investors should be taking a little more risk with their portfolio now that Mario Draghi has taken the risks of a collapse of the Eurozone off the table.
What do you think about the Italian financial sector? It is ready to restart, or it could be to restructure it again?
Well, I think in an environment of financial repression, the challenge that the financial sector in Italy has is twofold. It needs to be able to lend to legitimate business and individual enterprises at an attractive enough rate that people wish to borrow, which is not the case at the moment. But obviously it is also part of the plan to help the Italian government fund itself during this period of austerity. So at the moment, I think the Italian banks are caught slightly in between stools, but hopefully during 2013 we will see a better environment on the government side, which will then allow them to help fuel the recovery in the Italian economy.
China, United States and Europe. If you have to choose, which one you would prefer and why?
Well, I think what is very interesting, and I'd like to answer all three countries actually, China has now seen the most important government transition in the last 20 or 30 years. And I think we won't really see the real policies of China unfold until the second half of next year. And so I believe investors can afford to wait on the sidelines. The equity market does look cheap, and it has underperformed extensively in the last couple of years. With the United States, I believe they are heading into a European direction. The debate over the fiscal cliff is simply another way of saying that they are spending more money than they are taxing. That sounds quite similar to Italy, Spain, or the United Kingdom. We have been wrestling with this issue for the last 2 or 3 years. America is now going to be forced to wrestle with this issue. But since the global financial crisis, American equities have outperformed Europe by over 40%. So I would say there's a lot of good news in America and some more troubling and difficult news to come in 2013. With respect to Europe, you can tell I'm more optimistic. We know what the problems are. Our politicians and our central bankers are wrestling with those problems. But I think what is interesting for Europe is that no one owns their own equity market. Everyone is very cautious and owns either cash or bonds. And in many cases, many of the companies that one can own in Europe are global companies that are still doing well, and yet because they are listed in Milan or listed in Spain, they are very, very lowly valued. So we think investors should be beginning to realize that they are, in a period of financial repression, encouraged to take risk, and we would advocate them to look at equities as part of that risk taking.